Today, we are going to talk about a big topic, and it might be a little bit triggering or a lot triggering. And it's really this question of what if God wants you to get a divorce? What if He wants you to get a divorce? I know this is a really big idea, especially if you were raised to believe that divorce is really not an option, that marriage is sacred, that divorce means failure. You're a good mom if you stay and try to make things work it out or to make things work, or that commitment really means staying despite your soul screaming at you for something else. But today I want to talk about this different lens. What if God wants you to get a divorce? And that might feel a little bit radical, but I hope also deeply validating for some of you. So I want you to just take a deep breath and open your eyes to this new perspective. If God wants you to get a divorce, how would He tell you? And the answer is quite simple. He would tell you in the same way He guides you towards anything else or away from anything else, with giving you little nudges, giving you little whispers, giving you little bits of breadcrumbs to follow. So that gut feeling, that inner knowing that your relationship is nearing an end, at an end, past an end, you're not making that up. This is your intuition, this is your soul, this is God, this is the divine, this is the universe, whatever you want to call it, whatever language you want to use, this is real. This is the stuff to pay attention to, these little nudges. They will not go away. They start as little whispers, and then it's mildly uncomfortable, and then they get louder and louder until it feels like everything in you and at you, screaming at you, and you're crying on the floor of the bathroom, you're fantasizing about a different life, you're resenting the person you love. Those nudges, that's not there to torture you. You are being guided. You are being guided towards a different life, towards different decisions. You are being pulled in a certain direction. And if you don't listen, life will start to feel really, really hard, and it will get harder and harder and harder until you listen. That is how God works. Starts as whispers, louder and louder and louder. And when you're following what God wants for you, when you're following what your soul chose to do in this life, it starts to feel like you're in a canoe and you're flowing downstream. There's an ease to it. Doesn't mean it's easy, but there is an ease to it. It feels aligned. It feels flowy. It feels clear. It feels right. Even when it feels hard, it feels like you're on the right path. When you're resisting that flow, when you're trying to cling to a marriage that is essentially complete from a divine perspective. You're trying to please everyone. You're still trying to force what no longer fits. It is like you are swimming upstream. You're exhausted. You're being dragged and sucked under. You can barely keep your head up. You're being dragged along the rocks at the bottom. Your body knows. The wisdom inside of you knows that this is not right. You feel in your chest. You feel in your gut. You feel in your heart. The anxiety, the heaviness, the numbness. Your body knows, and you're not meant to live like that. So if your marriage is ending or has ended, I want you to contemplate the idea that that marriage itself wasn't a mistake. That marriage was still sacred. That marriage was still, that heartbreak, that unraveling, that was planned. What if it was planned by you and your partner and God? And your kids? What if it was planned before any of you came into this lifetime? What if it was what your soul signed up for to do in this lifetime? So you could grow together, so you could grow in the exact ways that each of your individual souls needed to grow. What if your marriage was never meant to be forever, even though I know the idea of marriage is forever? What if it wasn't true? What if it wasn't meant to be forever? What if it was meant to be a chapter, a mirror, a lesson, a catalyst? What if your kids signed up to do this knowing that their parents would not be together forever? What if you all chose to walk through the fire because it meant your souls could grow in a very unique way? This was my personal experience. The moment my ex and I decided to separate, we made that decision. It was like a giant weight lifted off of us, and we could finally relax and breathe a little easier and start to move on. It took us 3 years of those nudges getting louder and louder and louder. It took us 3 years of fighting, of disagreeing, of therapy individually and separate. It took us 3 years of desperately trying to cling to a marriage because we didn't believe in divorce. We didn't want to break apart our family. We didn't believe it was in the best interest of our kids. We didn't want to fail at this. We really were serious about marriage when we signed up for it, and we were desperately clinging to that. And yet when we finally gave in to everything that, all the little nudges, all the loud nudges, all the screams, when we finally said, okay, we are making a decision to end this, relief. We both felt relieved. And I cannot even describe to you that relief that we both felt. And it really felt like we were just turning a chapter, a page to a different chapter. We're starting a new chapter in our book, and we got to create what that next chapter looked like. And there was an ease in our relationship that hadn't been there before. Even in the moments and even in the years since we have separated, there was an ease now to our relationship that wasn't there in our marriage, because I don't believe that we were meant to be married forever, even though when we signed up for that marriage, when we got engaged, when we planned our wedding, when we took our vows, that was forever in our minds. And it took a long time for us to let go of that belief of what if this wasn't forever. And it was like when we made that decision, it was like we finally climbed into the canoe, grabbed the oars, and started paddling downstream. Just life got a lot easier. And divorce doesn't mean that you haven't loved well. It doesn't mean that you haven't put your all into it. It doesn't mean that you have failed. It just means something's finished. Like I said, turning the page to a next chapter, starting something fresh. There's an ending. With endings come beginnings. And it doesn't mean that marriage wasn't sacred. It doesn't mean that that marriage didn't serve a purpose. It was part of your story. And now there's another part of your story. And the relationships that are close to us, with our spouses, with our kids, with our parents, those are the hardest relationships, because they are designed at a soul level to help us grow. And that means working through really uncomfortable things. And what if a marriage, coming together for a marriage, having kids together, what if that was part of your growth? And now this divorce, this separation, this co-parenting, this new situation is also part of your divine soul growth and healing. God does not want you to be miserable. God does not want you to stay in a life that is literally like soul crushing. He's always guiding you. He's always guiding you. And sometimes the most courageous thing that you can do is you can listen to those nudges. You can follow that guidance even when it's deeply uncomfortable, even though it goes against what you thought you should be doing, even when it means walking away from something that you thought you'd have forever. So trust the nudges that God is giving you. Look for the ease, look for the joy, and walk towards these. And know that these are different than instant gratification and hedonism. These feel different in your body. So learn to understand the signals of your body, because there are subtle differences between these. But go towards the ease, towards the joy. Look at where things feel hard and walk away from the things that feel hard. And again, take the time to really understand the difference between where it feels like it's hard because this is not the path you should be on, versus it's hard because this is just something uncomfortable that you have to go through. There are differences inside of you. And if you're uncertain of the differences, ask God for guidance. Ask for more clear signals. So if you're wrestling with guilt over ending a marriage, if you're grieving the vision that you had for your life and it seems to be falling apart, if you're questioning whether you're selfish for breaking up a family or leaving a marriage, I want you to just consider that. What if God wanted this for you? What if you're on the right path, your soul's path? You were being led by God always. And maybe, just maybe, your path involves divorce. It involves single motherhood. It involves co-parenting. And if God is calling you on that path, then follow that path. You are on the right path. So I know that was a lot. I know that was heavy. I know that was different perhaps than you're used to hearing, but it's a perspective that I've sat with for a long time. It's something that I've wrestled through with over the years, because we have all these ideas. We're told what God expects of us. And what if all of that isn't true? So this is really where it comes back to trusting yourself and the guidance that you're given, and really having the courage to follow the nudges that God is giving you, walking down a different path, even though it wasn't what you wanted to be doing. It wasn't what you expected to be doing. It wasn't what everyone tells you should be doing. Trust that, and you will not go wrong. And if you know of another mama who needs to hear this message, please send her this podcast episode. And if you're walking down that co-parenting path and you want more support, tools, mindset shifts, scripts, all of the things, then definitely check out my Conscious Co-Parenting course. And as always, thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much.